How does your mind use dreams to update what you believe is possible? Hello, my beautiful soul seekers. This week, I'm joined once again by dream analyst Jane Teresa Anderson to explore how dreams process your recent experiences, why lucid moments and special power dreams arise, and how to interpret dream symbols for your own lived associations rather than fixed meanings. But first, if you've just arrived here, welcome. If you've come back, welcome home. And if you keep finding yourself here without subscribing, your soul clearly knows what it's doing. Honor that call and go ahead and subscribe. Jane is a dream analyst, dream therapist, and author of 7 books on dreams. She has researched dreams since 1992 and works with clients worldwide. We first return to Jane's core understanding of dreams as the mind processing the last day or two of experience, conscious and unconscious, and then reaching back through memory to update beliefs and internal limits. Then I bring a recent vivid dream for us to work with as an example. It was filled with seeming absurdities, special powers, and a lucid moment. So it's perfect for the purposes of this episode. We explore what changes when lucidity enters a dream, whether becoming aware sharpens the insight or interrupts the process, and why extraordinary dream experiences such as flying, hyperspeed, resonant sound often coincide with moments of personal threshold in waking life. So listen if you've ever woken from a lucid or unusual dream thinking, what on earth was that? And want a clear, practical way to understand what your mind is actually working through. And before we jump into all of that goodness, it's challenging to live in this crazy modern world. The wild sovereign soul path is what we know will help. So if you're struggling with the challenges of walking your soul path and your heart longs for guidance, kinship, and support, come join us in Unio, the community for soul seekers. Unio is the living home for the wild sovereign soul path, where together we reclaim our wildness, actualize our sovereignty, and awaken our souls. You can discover more and walk with us by hopping on over to bemythical.com/unio or click the link in the description. And if you're called to go even deeper on your wild sovereign soul path, come join us for the very exciting upcoming Wild Sovereign Soul course, a 3-month immersive initiatory journey into becoming a wild sovereign soul. Register your interest at bemythical.com/WSS. And now back to this week's episode. Let's dive in. Hello, Jane. A huge welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me again, Lian. It's a pleasure.
Oh, it really is my pleasure. I was just saying there is definitely a personal pleasure involved in coming back to record with you. I mean, I find the topic of dreams and the way you particularly work with dreams fascinating anyway. But as I shared, it was like my psyche was like, we're going to give you something really juicy to work with. So I had a great dream last night to share. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this.
Look, people so often say that to me, I knew I was going to meet you. So, so therefore I had this really big dream last night. I feel responsible for people's dreams.
You are. So talking about the way you particularly work with dreams, obviously this is our second episode together and we went really deep in that in our first episode. But for people who either haven't listened to that or could do with a reminder, would you just give a quick sense as to the way that you personally work with dreams and how that perhaps differs for how people typically think of dream work?
Yeah, so I look at dreams as the mind or the brain processing, which it is, processing your most recent experiences. So you're processing your conscious and your unconscious experiences, first of all, of the last 1 or 2 days, because like you've gone to bed and your brain's going, okay, got to process all of that. And then whatever you're processing will resonate with things from your past. So, if you're processing a particular feeling of irritation about a certain issue, then your dreaming brain or mind might go back to, say, a time when you were 15 or 25 or 3 when a similar situation came up, and it's going back and comparing what your experiences were in the last couple of days compared to when you've had similar experiences in the past, with the whole objective of the dream helping your mindset to update. So the idea is that, or the way that it works, is that your mindset is going, did my experiences yesterday, conscious and unconscious, have they compounded the beliefs I already had, the beliefs that I had when I was little, when I was younger? And am I going to wake up in the morning and basically discount yesterday's experiences and just wake up firmer and firmer in my concrete foundational beliefs, which is what often happens? Or is my dreamy mind going to go, you know what? I'm going to override or discard those earlier foundational beliefs, particularly the limiting beliefs, and I'm going to build a whole new structure, a whole new way of looking at life, and you wake up with that. So I look at the dream as a window into your mindset. How is your mindset processing your experiences in life? Is it updating to help you? Is it kind of stuck in the past? And what can we do about this? So in that kind of sense, I look at dreams as being all about you, the dreamer, all about how your mindset, how you are processing your experiences of life, and whether that is serving you well or whether it's serving you not as well as it could, in which case we make tweaks.
Mm. Beautiful. Thank you. Really well encapsulated. I was recalling last time we worked with a dream that I'd had that was quite out there in the themes. There weren't things that were part of my everyday life, but it was so interesting seeing how you were working with it in a way that what do those things mean to me as opposed to say archetypally or symbolically, which really allowed me to see things that there was had been real benefit in working as I typically will, more archetypally and symbolically, but there was definitely um aspects of the way that you and I looked at it together that gave me this like, this is something I hadn't seen through that way I'd normally work with it. So um again,
Yeah.
it's fascinating to me because so many of my dreams aren't really obviously me processing my day, and so that was a really good example for me of like it still is things that I'm processing, just not in the kind of typical everyday
That's
way
right.
that we might think of it.
Not in the
Um,
language. It doesn't actually look like your last couple. And when I start with people to begin with, they go, no, 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 there's no way.
yes.
That just did not happen. And and the main reason for that is that as we discussed last time, the front of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, which is kind of nice and tidy and organized and logical, that bit's not really working too well when you're asleep. So it's left with the
Mm,
rest of your brain to do the processing. So it's coming up with a more surreal, touchy, feely, kind of metaphorical kind of feeling for what the day was about. And then my job with the dreamer is to work through that and bring it back down to, yeah, so how is this related to the actual
mm.
experiences you're processing? On a side note, I think it's great that we dream that way because it makes our dreams far more exciting and memorable.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine how boring? Because sometimes we do have those more processed dreams where we are literally just processing. I heard them described the other day as Tetris dreams, where, when people play a game like Tetris, very repetitive and rhythmic, and then their dreams are basically them doing that. So we can have those, but thankfully we don't have
Yes.
too many of those because that
Yeah.
really would be boring.
It would be terrible. I mean, I sometimes do have clients that only have what you've just called Text dreams. And they say, I hear all the dreams you talk about on your podcast and people, and my dream's really boring, but I still want help. And I can still help them in the
Mm.
same way. So I do wonder when some people, whether there's a bit more activity here. We can
Oh,
still work with the
interesting.
dreams, but they're not, yeah, they're sometimes a bit prosaic.
Yeah. Oh, fascinating. Well, that's quite a good counterpoint because in this conversation, our intention is to look at the more, I guess, unusual dream experiences. And so there's a number of different ways that we can look at this. But as we've just been saying, you see that we are ultimately processing our last couple of days' experiences, even if they're through the lens of kind of metaphors and symbols. And then I wanted to look at some of the things that perhaps are a little bit different to the typical dream experience. So, including things like lucid dreams and kind of almost like special powers in dreams, as well as anything else that you want to share that you see happen for your clients, that again are perhaps a little bit unusual. So I will perhaps just as an example to start with, that perhaps we can kind of use as almost like a case studies that we can kind of weave from. My dream last night, it was actually quite a big dream. A lot went on, and it was only this particular segment that was lucid. But I'll give as much as I can in terms of briefly the wider context, which it was so strange. I don't even know if I fully understood what was going on in the dream, and I don't have exact recall of the whole dream. But there was this sense of both almost like a going to war and also an investigation taking place. But the characters were a little bit like something out of Alice in Wonderland, like nothing was quite normal. And there wasn't really a sense of threat. It was more just like, oh, there's a puzzle to solve kind of feeling to it. It wasn't like a scary, desperate dream. It was more just like, how strange. Like we are going to seek something out or to and I remember looking, and there was these figures that reminded me of the Queen's Guards in Alice in Wonderland. They were dressed in red, and I could sort of see them dotted around. And I was just noticing all of it and being kind of part of this group moving towards something. And then the lucid part was I was in this sort of vehicle. That's a generous word for it, as you'll hear in a moment. It was most like a rubber dinghy that was white with spots, possibly pink spots, like polka dots. And I was with a couple other people, we were about to go into what reminded me a bit of an underground station. And I was thinking we could go much faster if we worked out how to use this vehicle thing properly. And I was aware that there was a way you could make it move much faster by a particular almost like harnessing of your energy. Where I was saying to the other people, if we can harness our energy to do this, it's going to kind of like hyperspeed it. And then I had this realization in the dream of, oh, how interesting. I'm reaching the limits of what I believe is possible because this isn't real. This isn't this thing that I'm trying to do, and even this vehicle isn't possible in waking life. I'm like up against it in my dream life. Can I move past this belief of what is and isn't
Yeah.
possible? And I was so aware of that in the dream of like, oh, this is challenging because I'm needing to climb, like almost intentionally move past my beliefs of what, where the limits lie. Um, I think I may have been woken up. I don't remember what then happened after that, unfortunately. But that was my last part of the dream of like, this is so interesting. I'm getting to try something here that I can't normally do. Will I be able to do it here? So that was the dream. And so it combines this idea of powers. And again, we can have lots of dreams of that kind, can't we? It could be flying, being able to, I guess, move through material objects. And then also this theme of lucidity. So I'm going to kind of throw that over to you as a case study for us to have a look at in the first instance. But I would like to explore each of those different themes within it,
Yeah,
kind of more
fantastic.
generically as well.
Well, we'll start with, I just want to ask you about the Queen's Guards. When you think about the Queen's Guards, maybe you think about reading, your memories of reading Alice in Wonderland, but what's the kind of energy or the feeling of the Queen's Guards?
Well, in Alice in Wonderland, I would say I don't really think of them being a positive, or I sort of think of them being a negative energy. In the dream, it wasn't like that. It was more the fantastical aspect, like the way people were looking and dressed, and sort of standing out as different, that was more like Queen's Guards as opposed to the feeling I had about them, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. So, because when I was listening, my first thought was to think, oh, they're guards. So there's some sense of guarding yourself compared with later on in the dream, which was, I'm not going to guard myself with limited thinking or beliefs. I'm going to move beyond those. But you've described it in a different way. You've said that the Queen's Guards had a bit of a negative energy. So, to begin with, there's a feeling in the dream of I'm processing some kind of feeling of negative energy. Perhaps in the last 1 or 2 days, you might have noticed yourself being a bit negative, as we all do. No matter how positive we are, we catch ourselves thinking, "Oh, I can't do that," whatever. So catching a bit of negative energy, a bit of energy that you would normally guard your boundaries or guard your perimeters or not move beyond that. But the other interesting thing was that you saw them in the dream as did you say a bit different? Doing things differently,
Yes,
looking
it was
different?
like there was almost a slightly cartoon-like aspect to to that section of the dream and those particular figures. And I have a sense there was a central figure that was leading them, who was female, but not she didn't remind me of the queen in Alice in Wonderland. She didn't have those, capabilities, not capabilities, that feeling of the queen. Um, there was almost like a female heroine sort of feeling towards her that I had in the dream. But again, it was like this sort of slightly larger than life, or not exactly as they would look in
In
waking
real
life
life,
feeling.
yes. Okay. So in our dreams, we do encounter the larger than life aspects of ourselves because we're talking about boundaries here and limits and moving beyond them. So we can think larger than life is larger than the life that I currently lead.
Mm,
I'm leading my life at the moment, and it's this big, which could be enormous, probably is enormous for you. Um, but your life could be even bigger and bigger and bigger and
mm,
bigger. So there's that sense thereof, there's a part of yourself that knows that you could be bigger, that there's more to life than this. And yet, in contrast to that, you've kind of got these guards, this a part of yourself guarding, but they got the cartoon element, which often in a dream I notice when people have cartoons or something really funny happens, more often than not, it's because they have actually just in waking life began to transcend a limitation, to move forward slightly in some area of their life. And in the dream, it's almost like seeing the funny side of where you were at. Oh my God, did I really believe those were my
mm,
limits? Did I really believe my power stopped there? Did I really think that life was like that? Because when we do break through our limitations, we do tend to have that feeling, don't we? We look back and
mm. They look so
That's
real at the time,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but it's all just an illusion,
Mm,
isn't it? So
mm,
there's that kind of feeling in your dream too, that what might have been kind of a guard for me before, and you did say something about them being a bit different. So something about Lian, being a bit different, perhaps being a way of guarding myself in some way. But I'm seeing that in the dream as a bit of negative energy. Isn't that funny? Because I'm kind of moving through and past that now. And in fact, I've got this vehicle that's going to take me, this dinghy, pink spotted dinghy, that's going to take me.
of
We'll
all
come to the pink
things.
spotted bit in a minute. It's going to take me. Was it underground or was it undersea?
Yes, it was like, um, as if we needed to get to the other side of this underground sort of
Yeah.
tunnel stroke, like tube underground station. It felt like a mix between the two, and the idea was to get to the other side.
Right, okay. So the idea was to get to the other side of the limited belief or the smaller life that I thought that I had, and I'm now breaking out of that, and I need to get to the other side, and I have a vehicle and a way of doing that. It involves going underground, which probably means more into my unconscious mind. So it's more like your unconscious mind in the last 1 or 2 days has been shifting and changing, and maybe just releasing the guards a bit, and releasing a bit of negative energy, and realizing that life could be bigger, and moving through this. And your dream is processing it and saying, yes, so we're in the unconscious here. It hasn't quite hit consciousness yet. That'll happen in the next few days. But we're working through this unconscious to get to the other side. And just backtracking slightly, because I do want to come to the pink spotty boat, but backtracking slightly, you introduced the whole dream, I think, by saying it felt like it was a puzzle to solve, but it was also a war that you were going into. So, going
Yes, but
into,
not the typical feelings you associate with war. It was like so many people in this sense of kind of we have a challenge that we're kind of
okay.
that's we're moving towards together. But I didn't have any of the kind of I didn't have any fear or anything like that. But it was sort of somewhere between a puzzle and a war.
No, that makes perfect sense. So we could also say wars are usually conflicts. In real life, it's a conflict between this country and this country.
Mm.
And maybe in your dream, it's a conflict that you are now working through. And it's great that you were all the people you were with. It's like, to me, it's like all aspects of myself are on board with this.
Mm.
We're enjoying the challenge of this change. It feels like a puzzle. It doesn't feel like a major war or major conflict, but I realize, obviously, because the way that life is that we have all our conflicts, and that's why we have our boundaries and our guards. And then as we overcome those conflicts, we move out a bit more and a bit more and a bit more. So there's this definite lovely moving that you've got. And I think the Alice in Wonderland theme kind of ties into that shifting illusions. You know, we know at a certain stage in our life that this is an illusion. and as we break those illusions and move forward, the illusions shifts and change. So there's kind of acknowledgement in your dream of things shift and change, and things that I thought that I could do before, powers that I thought I had, can now be transcended. I can do so much more. And I'm acknowledging that in my unconscious mind. So it's a dinghy. What do you, when, of all the boats and all the vehicles that could possibly be, what's the kind of, what are the pluses and minuses of a dinghy? What's the advantages of, what can a dinghy do that other vehicles can't do, and and vice versa?
So I don't think in my dream I was thinking it is a dinghy. It just, if I now recall it back, that would be the most obvious description. And so I think there obviously had some sort of dinghy-like qualities for that to be the case. But definitely in the dream, I wasn't thinking, oh, we're about to get into a pink spotted dinghy, but it did literally look like a dinghy.
So describe, apart from the pink spotty, what made it look like a dinghy?
It was dinghy shape. So it was that size and shape of a kind of, lightness, almost like an inflatable type view of it. The idea that you'd be kind of inside with slightly raised outside. Yeah. Yeah, it had a sort of like a lightness to it that was very dinghy-like.
So if everyone and everything in a dream represents an aspect of the dreamer, the dinghy or the vehicle you were moving in represented a part of yourself, the part of yourself that is currently investigating moving forward past these barriers into something new. So the fact that you described that it had a lightness around it was really good. So there's a part of myself that's feeling light and free with my ability to move. Wow, I was really held back before, but look, I'm so light. And it was an inflatable as well, which kind of fits with you mentioning earlier on about uh, it being large, something being larger than life. The Alice in Wonderland thing being larger than life. So this inflatable dinghy, it's like, it's not an inflated ego. It's not that. It's like, yeah, I can be larger and lighter. I can be larger and lighter, and I can move forward in a different way. And hey, isn't this easy? I just want to know why. I want to know why it had pink spots. So what does the pink color mean to you? Or is it pink spots like measles or chicken pox or something?
No, I think it was I remember actually talking about things having a kind of humorous quality. I remember even in the dream thinking, this is quite funny. I remember looking at it thinking, that's not your typical vehicle. And thinking how funny it was that it had these polka dots. So I love the color pink. It's one of my favorite colors. And yeah, it was quite appealing. It had a kind of, again, a slightly comical, it wasn't like the most elegant of prints, let's say, but I remember thinking it looked appealing. It wasn't a negative thing at
Yes.
all. It was more just like funny and appealing.
That's lovely. So you described it as not your typical vehicle. And a
Mm,
couple of times earlier in our conversation today, you've mentioned things not being typical or being different. So, that's probably a recognition of, I'm okay moving forward, not being your typical fill in the blank. I don't know what,
mm,
I'm not being your typical person, whatever. And I'm actually going forward with the pink spots with a sense of humor and seeing the funny side of things and a lightness. So you may, in the last couple of days, been breaking through from more of a sense of seriousness and heaviness and being, in a smaller, limited way in some way, and you're now breaking through that. And part of that breaking and that lightness and that larger sense of life and that speed and tapping into powers that you previously didn't know you had because you felt held back. Some of that is to do with being more comfortable with being not your typical, whatever it is, that you're not your typical person, your typical approach, and taking a lighter, like the dinghy, to that lighter, comical, more light-hearted point of view. Would you say in the last couple of days, although this is all very unconscious at the moment, that there's a sense of breaking through into more the freedom of a more light-hearted approach to life?
It's an interesting thing because I would say in general, I am very light-hearted, and so I'm recalling these last couple of days if there's been a quality I can relate what you're saying to. It's certainly been, as I was sharing with you before we started recording, because we're in the midst of rebranding to Wild Sovereign Soul, and it's been, it's been tough in many ways to do this. This is asked a lot of us in all kinds of ways. Um, but I was noticing there was a particular feeling I had. I was looking at our rebranded podcast on Spotify with Jonathan, the co-founder. And I said to him, it's really funny whenever I see anything where it's got the new brand, Wild Sovereign Soul, it's got this strange quality of almost like relief. Like, it's just this really interesting quality. It's not this, it does feel exciting and all of those things, but it's more this just like, at last, this is right. Which is not what I'd imagine like, it doesn't match what you'd expect to feel. It's
Ah,
less of a kind of, it's a relief it's done. It's more a relief like this. Explained it a little bit like if you reunited with a lost lover, like, "Oh,
yes,
at last we're back again." It has that quality. And so that's what springs to mind as you're saying it. It's felt tough to get to this
yes,
point, and then it has this relief-like quality, but not a relief just that it's done. It's something else that is
yes.
not as I'd expect it to feel.
Oh my goodness, that is so good. And I've got one little thing that I want to say at the end, and I must remember. I'm just going to put it there and come back to that.
Okay.
So, so what you've described there is that lovely feeling of, and particularly probably unconsciously as programmed in the processed in the dream. The relief is not the relief of just having done the work. It's something deeper that I really wanted to connect with and get out into the world. And I'm only just now realizing how much I really wanted to connect with the world in this way and connect within myself in this way. This is bringing something in me out into the world. That I put over there was the name Spotify, which has got the name Spot in it.
Oh gosh.
Yes.
How
And
funny.
that's how much our dreams can sow these little seeds in, at some level. You're processing. And when I was with Jonathan looking at Spotify, I noticed, oh, this is wonderful. I'm making all this progress. And your dream went, spot. Oh, well, we'll put some pink spots on the back.
We'll
I think
use
that kind of
that.
covers it. Was there any pink in the Spotify that you were looking at, or pink in your
No, I
rebranding or
can't
anything?
think of the pig, but I love that. So literal.
It's so, and it happens time and time again that, we'll be deep in the waters of a dream and this little thing will come out and it always makes me laugh and it always connects. That's where the spot came from.
Yeah,
Because,
it's this
and
random
it
spot.
sounds so silly and it sounds random, but, you were with Jonathan at that moment looking at Spotify when the relief hit you and
Mm,
when you realized it ran really deep. And so
yes.
you had that connection of spot.
Mm.
I don't think this is it, but I could say, spot, if I only did this, spot there could be something in your particular
Mm.
Leanne's mind that doesn't see Spotify, that sees spot. If I can do this, then so, which is a sense of greater power. If I can do, what if I can do this?
Mm.
What if, and I don't know, I'm just suggesting that maybe why your mindset's kind of put pink spots, making great progress. You can see some of the touch points, if we were
Mm.
spending a client out, we'd spend an hour and we'd go deep and we would not have to think that other people were listening. We could go wherever we wanted to. But, I think it's an incredibly, I know you want to talk about the lucid bit too, an incredibly positive and uplifting dream, and it's really captured that point where you're not only moving forward in a bigger sense, even though you may not yet completely grasp what this bigger sense is, because it's still
Mhm.
kind of quite unconscious. And I think that's why your dream came up with such a magnificent dream, because it was really grappling with this still at the unconscious level, still trying to put it all together. This wondrous Alice in Wonderland, this wondrous thing. Sometimes the words that I use come up to me as prompts for the dream. Look, Alice in Wonderland, this wondrous thing that's happening for me in my life. I'm processing in my dream and trying to understand it. I'm trying to puzzle it out. But you've got that sense of moving
Mm.
forward. So if at all you want, even though you turned lucid, before you turned lucid, you still had a sense of the power of the pink spotted dinghy?
Yes, yes, because
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, wow, here this is," and it felt magical as well, like, "Oh, in this land, there are these strange vehicles." It was that kind of like, "Oh, great, we
Yes.
can use that." It was that sort of sense.
Okay, so in this
Mm.
land which I am now entering, in this way of looking at life which I am now entering, I can do all sorts of things. So because that was before you went lucid, it was still raw dream stuff. You can, I think we were talking last time about dream alchemy and how if there's, for example, a dream shows a limiting belief, you can bring in dream alchemy to begin to reprogram that limiting belief into
Mm.
something that is more helpful for you. And if people are listening in, haven't listened to part one, could really benefit from going back to listen to that bit. And the opposite is also true. If your dream is really positive like that, you can kind of take a symbol and amplify it. So if over the next few days you're thinking, just losing a bit of that sense of, of empowerment and moving forward, you can just momentarily, not even close your eyes, but get back into that contact of, here I am in the pink spotted dinghy. It feels larger, inflated. It feels a sense of lightness. It's making me laugh because of the pink spots. It gives me a sense of, wow, how far can I go in this magical land where things are different? So just bringing back and reliving, even
Mm.
while you're awake, that sense, the sensuality of the image can help to um, sort of remind your unconscious mind that, yes, that's the direction I'm choosing. We are going in this direction. The moment you
Mm.
turn lucid,
Can I
things
just
can change.
mention a couple of things before we
Yes,
it feels really important. There was the word buoyant, as you were just saying, like when you can touch back into that, the word buoyant just went straight into mind. It's not a word that I'd ever normally use, but it was just suddenly really clear. This word buoyant felt important. Um, and then also when you were reflecting back, what you heard in my experience of relief, seeing the new brand on Spotify, it really moved me. I felt like this rush of emotion of kind of, yes,
yes.
it's that. There is something so much deeper that this is connecting into in terms of that kind of expression into the world. And I really felt like what you said, that my being was saying, yes, it's that.
That is fantastic, and that is something that is magical and will often happen in work with the client. That it will just be, and I can be unaware of it. It's just that yes, what you said there clarifies, and it not only clarifies consciously that I understand it, but it's bringing up something in me that is recognizing this. Is still kind of
Mm.
coming up from there, but my body is going, yeah, yes, yes, that's it. Yes,
That's the
that's
one.
it,
Yes.
which is really good.
Mm.
With the buoyant, I'm not sure, I would go down looking at the word boy as in masculine, but what I think I got it when you said that your response to me saying that you realize it went really deep, and deep is
Mm.
down there and buoyant is up here. So to me, there's a
Mm.
sense of what is deep is maybe coming up to the surface, and I
Oh,
am feeling,
yes.
yeah, and I'm feeling buoyant, and I'm offering a buoyancy.
Mm.
There's the lightness, but I think coming up to the surface, a buoy in the well, I know what it is, but you tell me in your own words what a buoy is. A buoy floating on the sea.
Well, I suppose it has very similar. I suppose it's showing you that there's places like it sort of shows you where the limits are, doesn't it? In a way, I guess
Yes.
that's what a boy's doing. Literally, it's saying here's where something ends and something begins.
Yes, that's right.
Mm.
So that follows through with the ideas of limits and transcending them. It felt
Mm.
buoyant. It's uplifting. I can see limits. I'm pushing new limits. I'm moving my boys ahead of it
Yes. Yeah.
along those lines. Yeah.
Mm. Yes. Thank you. Sorry, I interrupted. You're about to go to the lucid part.
Yeah, so once you go lucid, as you know, you're then, and I assume all our listeners understand what lucid dreaming is.
Would you mind giving a very quick definition
Yes, for
just for
people that
people who are
don't, yeah.
perhaps less familiar?
So lucid dreaming is when, in a normal dream, whatever is normal about dreams, in, when you're dreaming, you're totally convinced by the dream. It is real. You have no idea that you have a waking life. And if it's a really frightening dream, that still doesn't shock you. Still, it's life and death. And it's only when you wake up, you go, oh, gosh, I didn't know. Thank goodness that was a dream. It was a different reality. But when you're in it, it's the only reality. When you're in a dream and some part of your mind or your brain goes, oh, hang on a minute, this is a dream because I'm actually asleep in bed and I've got a waking life, and you get that sense of a double reality. I've got two realities, and you stay in the dream. That's when you say, I'm now lucid dreaming. I'm lucid and I'm clear that I am dreaming. So it's not like daydreaming. It's not like going back to sleep and kind of like trying to direct the dream a bit. It's not that. It's waking up, but not waking up in bed, but becoming aware in the dream that, oh, I'm dreaming. And then you have basically two choices. One is to stand back and just go, wow, 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 look at that, look at that, look at that. I'm dreaming, and watching everything that happens and feeling it. And the other one, which most people, of course, prefer, is to take control. Right. So I'm going to fly first, and then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, because I'm perfectly safe. I know it's only a dream, so I can do all these things, and it's, fantastic. So the moment that a dream becomes lucid, you can't really follow through with exploring and interpreting it from the point of view of what is this meaning about me and how I'm processing my life, because
Mm,
you've become conscious and you're changing it, you're interfering with it, and that's fun and
mm,
it's great to do. And I often say to people, look, lucid dreaming is great, it is amazing, but my advice is not to set out and try to do it every night, because some people love it so much. It's like, I'm going to learn all the tools and techniques, and I'm going to go to sleep each night and I'm going to lucid dream. And although you can have a lot of fun with that, you're depriving your mind and your body and your brain from actually doing the processing that it needs to do. And you're
mm,
depriving yourself of the material, the dream that comes out of that can help you so much to understand where you're at in your life and how you're processing it.
mm.
Yeah.
Yes, that really makes sense. My daughter had a great example of this. I'll share this very briefly because people who perhaps haven't experienced a lucid dream, this is such a great example, really simple one, where my daughter dreamed of a boy that she's kind of in a sort of off on connection with, and then she said to me, and then in my dream, I thought to myself, "Oh, I just dreamed about him, but I don't think I'm going to tell him that I dreamed about him." I don't want to give him that satisfaction. Which really made me laugh. And so she said, it was funny because I was aware in the dream that I had just dreamed about him. I thought when I wake up, I'm not going to tell him I dreamed.
I'm
I
I'm
thought,
just going to tell my mum instead.
I just thought it was such a great example of a lucid dream. Um, anyway, so back to you.
Yeah. So
So I think we were going to look at my, which I thought was interesting. My, the way that I went lucid there, it feels as though it was so directly related to the themes we were already talking about. It allowed me to kind of become even more conscious of this idea
yes,
of limits and kind of where I am and what's possible.
yes, yeah. The way that you did it, you didn't take over the dream.
Mm,
You were fully embodying it and sensing it. So it did, and because it wasn't a frightening dream, because it was already pretty good, you
mm,
basically uh, amplified that in the dream as well. So I think in your
mm,
case it was helpful because it amplified it. It helped you to remember it, and you began to take notes like, oh, I can see this is about limits and boundaries. Yeah.
mm. Yeah, certainly a theme. And so in general, when we have those, it's not to say that I have no intention to be able to dream lucidly. It's kind of a bit of a side project where I kind of dip in and out of wanting to lucid dream. Um, but it feels as though that was very, um, almost like organic. I feel like that could have happened at any point in my life, whether or not I was trying to lucid dream, if that makes
Okay.
sense. It
Yes,
feels as though there was
I'm
something
wondering.
important about it just happening.
Yeah, I'm wondering. This is going to sound really weird, but I'm wondering if in fact it wasn't a lucid dream, but that you dreamt that it was a lucid dream.
Oh, I
Yeah.
I I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I can't explain what you mean, but I know what you
Yeah. So that,
mean.
because that makes more sense to the fact that it stayed on theme and it really kind of bolstered that feeling. And
Mm,
to dream that you're lucid is to say basically, I'm getting more clarity on my life. I'm becoming lucid. I'm becoming really aware of these things in my life which are shifting and changing. And it's like lucid dreaming, but not actually being lucid. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm wondering if that's what happened. Because the actual
mm.
lucid dreaming will often give you more of a jolt, won't it? That, oh, what am I going to do?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, that really makes sense. I feel like it was sort of we're in a really interesting sort of like liminal limbo space where it's kind of, yes, it's that and it's that, and it
Yes.
yes, it feels like it has that quality. I know exactly what you mean.
And I love what you say about
Mm,
liminal there too, because it's a lovely word that I have certainly used in the past and a lot of clients will use when you're aware that there's major changes in life that you've in waking life, sorry, that in waking life you've been in this situation which has come to an end for whatever reason, and you can see that you're going to be moving into this situation in between. It's not a bad feeling. It's a really strange, discombobulated feeling, and people often put the word liminal on it. And so
mm,
for you to put that in the dream too, where you may not have been lucid, but you may have been liminal, it's that sense of things are really shifting and changing, and I can't quite put words on it. I feel like I'm getting
mm,
some kind of clarity. I can't put words on it other than liminal. And when we go liminal, there's only one there's only one way to go, and it's don't try and understand anything. Just accept this is
mm,
liminal. You're in transition, and just go with it, with or without adding, well, in waking life, the occasional bolstering effect of reimagining yourself in the pink spotted dinghy.
mm. Of all things. So coming back to this idea of having powers in dreams, where again it could be flying. I remember one dream I had years ago that was so um remarkable, where it took place, of all places, at the bottom of, we live on a country lane. It was the bottom of this of the country lane that I live on. And these figures approached me, and they've had a feeling of perhaps being um maybe from, like, Africa, and from, like, indigenous people, and so they were dressed and looked like that, though they were still living in that kind of more traditional life way,
Yeah.
and they came towards me and were open their mouths and were talking in this, like, just not even talking, but, like, resonating this pure sound, not speech, but not like singing, but just like a kind of like almost like a sonar sound, and sort of directing it at me. And then I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can understand it and I can do this too." And it was this really vivid experience where I was so in the experience and just like, this is incredible. This is possible. Even in the dream, I was just like absolutely awed by this experience. And so there are these sort of special power dreams. I know myself, I've had all kinds of strange experiences like this, which to make no sense in waking life. I don't have those powers that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
um, but what are these kind of experiences telling us in the
So yeah,
dream?
so again, I mean, incredible and lovely, uplifting dreams to have and very meaningful. Um, but again, remembering that the dreams don't appear to have the same logical steps as waking life. That they're dressed in different clothes. So if we just take down, not to take the magic away from it at all, because it was magical, but we take that down to its basics. It's that something close to home, because you were close to home in the dream. Something close to home. Um, I'm getting more in touch with something close to home, which is more traditional, more related to the old ways. Not necessarily the old ways out there in society or culture, but the old ways within myself. And our own indigenous nature maybe goes back to our own personal birth, or you may feel it goes back through generations. But I'm getting in contact with something that is not digital and IT and political. I'm getting in touch with something much deeper than that. And your dreaming mind processes it as a kind of vibration, as a tone. So,
Mm,
whether in waking life you use um, the wording of lifting my vibration or attuning to something, you might say, I'm getting in tune with something, in which case your dreaming mind might select um, plays on those words. So
mhm,
I don't know if you do, but Leanne often says she's getting in tune with something. So you dream your brain to go, okay, oh, in tune. Oh, tune. We can do a tune.
mm,
She's getting in tune with this deeper, more natural, traditional kind of sense, and or changing her vibration, and the way that you then had the special power in the dream was, we are all infinitely far more powerful than we know. And being human, we can't touch them. We
mm.
usually can't touch those things at all. But at this stage in your dream, you are touching that sensation of, yeah, there's more to me. And at that particular time, we might then look back, well, you don't remember when it was, but in the last couple of days before that, where you're getting a bit bogged down in, electronics, modern life? Was there a need to get back in contact with something within yourself that was more ancient? Or were you actually beginning to explore that and feeling a resonance with that? I think you used the word resonant in the dream.
I did.
Yeah,
Well remembered,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So,
Mm,
was I feeling the last couple of days a resonance with something deeper?
mm.
And your dreamy mind's going, yeah, we'll show you resonance. How about this?
Hold my beer, I'll show you resonance. Um, and would you say there is a reason that these types of dreams are obviously more, memorable and have more of an
Mm,
impact on us because they're so out
yeah.
of the ordinary? Is there a
Yes.
reason for that? Because everything you've said could come in the form of something that's, I don't know, a tuning fork, something that could
Yes.
happen, whereas
Yeah.
these dreams make you pay attention. I was about to say make you wake up and pay
Yeah.
attention. What's your sense of that?
I think two main things. One is it's more guttural, it's more sensual. So dreaming about a tuning fork might be a good clue, but dreaming the dream you have was deeply sensual. So it's the dream is processing a sense of the sensual, a sense of connection that is difficult at the time of the dream to explain using words. It's more tuning it tuning into something sensual, so your dream goes for that kind of sensual thing. And I think the other aspect of it is that where, wherever any of us are in life, when we do step past a previous limitation, that's magical. In 10 years' time, you might go, well, I'm over here, and that's just all ordinary now. But the next one, it's magical. The next one, it's magical. So your dream will come up with that feeling of, oh, I've just touched the limitless possibilities because I've just stepped over this line, and I never thought I'd be here. So this is like so powerful. This is magical. This is a feeling. I can't put words on it. It's a deep, deep sense. And then your dream is that you could say in many ways that these dreams are perhaps closer to the experience of our soul, that part of ourselves, that deep being,
Mm,
because it's the part of ourselves that isn't using words or consciousness to describe.
mm. Yeah. What would you, if that's your soul, how would you, this is perhaps a bit of a big question to end with. I'm aware of time, but I'm gonna trust there's a reason I'm asking this just as we're about to end the show. Um, what you just said there really makes sense in that the soul does speak in the way that you said, and also the soul is unlimited by the ideas that we have as in this kind of human consciousness. So if that's coming from soul, how is that different to other dreams? Where are they coming from if not the soul?
Oh, your dreams are coming from everything. all your experiences of life, conscious and unconscious. So the moment you're saying my unconscious experiences, those are not only that you're unconsciously, that you notice the fly flying behind you that you don't notice in everyday life, but your unconscious mind has gone, there's a fly buzzing behind me, which is boring.
Mm.
But your unconscious
Yes.
mind
Yeah,
is
your soul's
also
not really that bothered about the
no, that's right.
fly.
But there's all this other wonderful stuff which is we're totally unconscious to, but it's still
Mhm.
there in our being. So when I mean, what occurs to me to say is, if life was deeply moving and incredibly magical every single second of every single day, we might call that boring because, yeah, been there, done that, been there, done that, been there, done that. So
Mm.
it's the great big changes that we record as magical, and maybe that's
Mm.
the kind of soul. I don't even like, putting words on things like soul or not soul is hard. So I guess I'm really saying that those dreams are drawing on the deeper by soul, the deepest, truest parts of ourselves that we have difficulty putting words on. And there are times in our life
Mm.
when we do make these great big changes, which we can only perceive as magical and amazing. And that is when we then perhaps um, get more in touch with that deeper and more magical and amazing, powerful parts of ourselves. And that's when we touch more that sense of our soul, that on a day-to-day basis, we think we are in touch with it, but not so much as we sometimes are when we make great big changes in our lives, or when we shift those shifts that,
Mm.
when you, this sounds a bit mundane to put it this way, but when you're older, I'm quite old, that you can look back and you can see a continuous line. This has been me since the day I've been born, but I don't necessarily relate to myself at different ages anymore because things have changed so much. How I see the world has changed so much. So there's kind of sense of, but what you have brought with you with all of that is your soul. There's a basic essence there that you
Mm.
increasingly get to notice and experience, but it helps you to look back and say all those phases of my life that I still look back and I can laugh and have lovely memories or have bad memories, and I can say that was me, that was me, that was me. But yeah, I can see why she did that or why she didn't do that, but that doesn't feel like me anymore.
Mm.
And so maybe these dreams come up at those times when there's shifts and changes. For example, you with this rebranding has touched something deeper that you didn't know what it was. So almost like this new calling or this deeper sense of self that is going to mean that as you go forward, you may or may not relate so much to the Lian of past decades, and that
Mm.
this whole branding thing, which may have occurred to you as a business thing, or I don't know what had occurred to you, was actually um, really just a kind of leading edge of a deeper um, readiness to make contact with something so much deeper within yourself that you were ready to bring it into your life. I've kind of gone a bit
Mm.
all over the place there, but do you kind of see what I'm trying
Yes,
to
I
say? Yeah.
do. I feel like there's again, there's so much here for me personally in what you're sharing. And so I'm gonna trust it's useful for listeners too, but certainly for me, it's I'm gonna use the word resonate again. I recognize that there's a real resonance there. So thank you. Um Gosh, this has been another fabulous episode. I love everywhere we've gone. And again, I feel a little bit selfish in that we've spent so much on me and my dream. But my hope is illuminating those themes in general for anyone having kind of, again, these sort of special power dreams or lucid
Yes.
dreams.
Look, it was not selfish at all. It was quite the opposite. You selflessly offered up the depths of your dreams and the depths of what's happening for you, and opened up that vulnerability or whatever it is and shared it with everybody listening. So it was totally the opposite of selfish. You gave people a real window into you and your life, and you allowed me to step in and walk through that with you. And in doing that, to help people listening to see some of the processes that we use.
Mm. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Where can listeners find out more about you and the wonderful work you do? I'm sure they want to.
Well, they're listeners, so if they like podcasts, start with a podcast. The podcast is called The Dream Show with Jane Teresa Anderson. And
What a great
as I
name, by the
mentioned,
way. I don't know if I said that last time. It's a great name.
and it was actually somebody else that came up with that. people that were doing the technical side at the time said, you should call this the Dream Show. And I think I shared last time we've been going for 16 years, but this year, for anybody listening back to this, this is actually the beginning of 2026. And this year we decided to add in the video element. So finally, I am now also doing, like we've got here, the full show on video on YouTube.
Oh, well done.
Which I
Congratulations.
didn't
It's a big
thank you.
shift, isn't it?
It is a big shift. And I didn't do it for the first 14 or 15 years because we always had anonymous, the format of the show was to have an anonymous guest anywhere in the world that brought a dream, which we analyse. And so I couldn't really put an anonymous person. The idea was to keep them anonymous so that they shared everything. But over the last year, I've been bringing in guests who are known people. So I can put this on YouTube now. So so you can listen or watch on Apple, Spotify, Apple and YouTube, The Dream Show with Jane Teresa Anderson, or go to my website, which is janeteresa.com, and that's Teresa without an H, where you can find out about my courses and about how to have a private consultation with me by Zoom, about my books, got loads of books, and everything else. So just janeteresa.com. Thank you.
Wonderful. Oh, thank you so much. This has been such a joy. It really has. Thank you.
Thank you, Lian.
What another fascinating show with Jane. Here are my favourite parts. A dream can present as conflict, but without fear, when inner change is already underway, reflecting a mind that is reorganizing rather than defending. A lucid moment in a dream can mirror a shift in waking awareness, revealing the edge between current belief and emerging expansion. When the dreaming mind pushes against limits of what feels or even is possible, it often signals that internal boundaries are being tested and updated. If you'd like to hop on over to the show notes for the links, they're at bemythical.com/podcast/536. And as you heard me say earlier, if you're struggling with the challenges of walking your soul path in this crazy modern world and long for guidance, kinship, and support, come join us in Unio, the community for soul seekers. You can discover more and join us by hopping on over to bemythical.com/Unio now. Let's walk the path home together. And if you're called to go even deeper on your Wild Sovereign Soul path, come join us for the upcoming Wild Sovereign Soul course, a 3-month immersive initiatory journey into becoming a wild sovereign soul. You can register your interest at bemythical.com/WSS. And if you don't want to miss out on next week's episode, and why would you? Head on over to your podcasting app or platform of choice, including YouTube, and hit that subscribe or follow button. That way you'll get each episode delivered straight to your device automagically as soon as it's released. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please drop some love on it, press that like button, share with a friend, spread the love. Thank you so much for listening. You've been wonderful. I'll catch you again next week. And until then, I'm sending you all my love and blessings as you walk your wild, sovereign soul path.